Hey HR pros, we need to talk about something big today. My inbox has been buzzing with questions about this recent executive order rolling back federal affirmative action mandates for contractors and the DE&I mandates. I've probably received as many questions about this as I have for the SHRM exam and any other HR related topic really. This is a big shift, and as HR professionals, it is our job to stay ahead of the curve. So news like this impacts us. We're going to break down what this means for the SHRM exam, for your work, and for you personally. I'm Angela Murray, SHRM SCP, SPHR, and your favorite HR coach. We're going to start off talking about how this impacts your upcoming exam. If you're testing in winter 2024 testing window, that means ending February 2025, you don't need to be worried. There will probably be some things eliminated from the exam, but there is no need to worry about learning any new frameworks or any new regulations in this window. SHRM certifications are planned and developed months in advance, so changes to legal frameworks or to any regulations take time to be reflected in the exam content because they have to undergo careful analysis. There has to be question development because they have to make sure that the questions are valid. And then, of course, there is the pilot testing, and you see that in the form of the field questions. So while you won't likely see questions on affirmative action or DE&I, you will have questions on discrimination or the Vietnam Era Veterans Readjustment Assistance Act and the EEOC. So that's that. Now, before we start talking about these changes, I feel it's important to have a full understanding of this topic. So I'm going to use an analogy that I often use in my classes to break down DE&I and affirmative action and their differences. If you've been in my class, you've probably heard this. So let's say you're having a potluck and you tell each person to bring their signature dish, that one thing that they do best. So everybody shows up with their dish. One person has the potatoes, another has the steak, and then somebody has broccoli. So on, all the good stuff. This is diversity. Each individual has a dish to offer. But when everybody puts their individual dishes on the table together, now we have dinner. That's inclusion. If the person with the steak doesn't show up, it's going to be a little bit harder for everybody to get full. So everybody needs to bring their best dish and put them all together. That way we all get full. Now, there are some people in the group who can't eat meat. And that's fine because we give them a little bit of extra potatoes and we give them a little bit more broccoli because we still want everybody to leave the potluck full. That's equity. Recognizing that different circumstances are sometimes necessary to get people to the same result. Some people need an unequal amount of potatoes to get to the same place as everybody else because their circumstances are different. Now dinner is over and you realize that nobody brought a dessert. So at the next potluck, instead of just letting everybody bring their signature dish, you make sure that you assign someone to bring the dessert. Now that doesn't mean that we don't want the other foods to be there because we need all of them there to make a balanced meal. But since we overlooked the dessert the last time, we are now taking intentional measures to make sure that dessert is on the table next time. Now imagine that for years, the same group of people brought their signature dishes and the dessert was consistently left out because we just never thought to invite the dessert maker to the potluck. This wasn't intentional, but it happened because they just weren't a part of the usual circle, so they're not around when we're doing all the planning. But once we start to invite them, we recognize that the dinner is better for everybody when they're there. That's affirmative action. Affirmative action ensures that this time we not only invite the person who makes dessert, but we also create a space for them to contribute. We recognize that they bring value to the overall experience. It's not about taking away steak or taking away potatoes. It is about intentionally correcting an imbalance so that everybody has a better experience. So now with that context, I think we can talk about what's changed. The executive order rescinds the requirement for federal contractors to maintain affirmative action programs. These programs are aimed at promoting diversity, giving direction that the OFCCP should, and I quote, stop allowing and encouraging federal contractors and subcontractors to engage in workforce balancing based on race, color, sex, sexual preference, religion, national origin. Now, why don't we want balance? This new order goes on to say that federal contractors have to certify that they do not have illegal DE&I programs, and it gives the agency direction to investigate up to 9 entities for potential violations. This might impact private corporations. It could impact large nonprofit organizations or some major foundations. So you can see why there is this concern that this change might cause organizations to just abandon their diversity efforts to avoid conflicts with this new policy. Now, of course, you also are going to have those organizations who view this legal change as their excuse to deprioritize D&I and just rid themselves of something that probably does require extra effort, extra money. But the business case for a diverse organization still stands. Diverse workplaces foster innovation, it increases engagement, and if you just want to be real about it, it just helps organizations to stand out as an employer of choice. If you are still taking steps at DE&I in this climate, we know it's because you want to. So what does this mean for HR professionals? Well, without the affirmative action requirement, federal contractors now have fewer mandated guidelines for structuring their hiring and recruitment strategies. And if everybody doesn't show up as the best version of themselves, this can be dangerous. A lot of the debate right now is centered on race, but this is not a race issue. Affirmative action impacts many marginalized communities. It impacts people over 40, different religions. It impacts gender. So while it's no longer required, maintaining diversity and inclusion efforts is still a strategic advantage. Even without the mandates, a lot of organizations are still choosing to keep these initiatives because it makes good business sense. And that is a choice that your employees are going to notice. Now, of course, federal contractors have to make sure that they are not violating any laws or any regulations. But that does not mean that they cannot continue the effort for fairness and equity. And then also, let me just say, this rollback of DE&I isn't a free-for-all. This is a test of will. It is a test of how committed companies really are to fairness and equity and inclusion. Now let's talk employee morale. For employees from underrepresented groups, this might be scary for them. This change could raise questions about their company's commitment to equity. As HR leaders, it's on us to reassure the employees and show that our core values haven't shifted, even if the regulations have. Here are a few things that you can do right now to try to adapt to this. Stay educated on your state and local laws. A lot of states still have affirmative action or diversity requirements in place, so make sure that your policies comply with the local regulations. Then focus on transparency. Just be upfront with the employees. Tell them how these changes are going to impact them or not. Clarity builds trust. Position DE&I as a strategic priority. Even without federal requirements, consider how strong DE&I programs support your hiring goals, how it strengthens your brand, or how it drives engagement in your organization. So what's the takeaway here? Change is inevitable. Sometimes it's bad, sometimes it's good. The removal of affirmative action requirements changes the compliance landscape, but it does not change our responsibility as HR leaders. So whether you are maintaining existing programs or you are pivoting to adapt, the key is to focus on fairness, transparency, and long-term strategy. HR ensures that employees are treated fairly, that they are working in a positive environment, and they have what they need to be successful. And nobody has to require us to do that. That is all up to us. So I hope this clears up some of the questions that you guys have for me, even the people who just wanted my opinion. I hope this makes my position clear. And I hope that you do what you feel is necessary to navigate these changes. See you next time. Bye.